Welcome to another episode of Starseed Activations. So let's just see. Today we're going to pull an affirmation card, and it says, "Today I am special. Today I will realize that I am a unique, one of a kind type of person." So that is absolutely wonderful for today's mission and message. So many different things have been coming across that I personally see in my holographic simulation. And so many things that we see is it really is time to buckle down and start doing the shadow work. And so the shadow work, it's been everyone's reoccurring topic that I've come across. And so the shadow work is when you feel this innate sense or call to actually go deep inside of yourself and start to heal yourself. Now, that whole healing process and healing journey, it's a process. It's never going to be a one and done. So anytime we start to see a healing journey, it could take some people months, it could take some people years. It really depends on each person and where you're at. What the hell? Something just flew. There's some weird things always happen around me. Happy Easter Friday. Welcome, Karen. Welcome, Danielle, Melissa, Nikki. Thank you guys so incredibly much for coming and showing up and enjoying this transmission with the Star People tonight. Good evening, Nancy. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so the first question that we are going to dive into is cord cutting. Now, there's many different types of modalities that will allow us to cut energetic cords. And so when I first started doing cord cutting, I was always told by other people, you take a crystal, you wave it over your body, and you say, "Thank you, body, for cutting all the energetic cords." To me, in my mind, that was wonderful. That was way back when, like 2019. And so I thought that that worked. But then now I have a more intimate connection and relationship with the star people. And so when they come down and they do my energetic cord cuttings, it's totally different. And so what I see is the next day, anybody that I haven't spoke to in like 6 months or more, they will try and come and make contact or communication with me. And that's because the energetic cord was solidly cut, which then in turn their higher self send them to make contact and communication in order to allow that cord to be reattached. So, energetic cords can also flow with attachments. So, attachments we have spoke, but there's so much more information than I was actually able to give you guys. Now, some attachments trigger multiple emotions. That's one thing. Thank you, thank you. I just sprayed it. um, so some attachments it totally throw me off guard. Normally I don't see the comments. They like scroll too fast, and that one was like, bam. Okay. So the attachments. Normally the attachments, we have to know the name of the attachment because the attachment is like an emotion code. That emotion code is what the attachment triggers inside of us. There's different types of attachments that I haven't even gone over inside the classes because it just didn't come up. It's too much information. And so some of the attachments are like squids, some are spiders, some form a web, some will latch on to the independent grid of each chakra. Other attachments will focus themselves in the thought grid. Other attachments will focus in the heart chakra. These are where the heart shades come in with those. So the heart chakra attachments, they start to form density and darkness covering the heart, which then in turn allows like a feeding frenzy to take place because then all different types of attachments can latch onto you once there's a heart shade. So this is how we see people who go through life and they've been so hurt or so traumatized that they've developed a darkness over their heart. We know this as being cold hearted. And so when those people walk around now, because they're in such a low frequency, all this bad stuff is constantly happening to them, which then puts them in that position of blocking off their heart even more. It's like a cycle. It's a cycle repeat, is what it is. And so when we start to realize that, oh, okay, they're going through that because they were once hurt in their heart, and like many of us have been, but when you shut the heart off, now I personally I've experienced what that feels like to turn off your heart. And I walked around, it was a good extensive while that I was like, wow, I feel like I'm not able to love anything or anybody, including myself, including the activities that I used to enjoy doing. So like painting, artwork, plaster pieces, I used to sculpt, all this stuff that I used to do. I was completely shut down and blocked. Now, when you think about it, when the heart forms a shade, it doesn't allow the primary energetic grids to flow correctly. And so when we start to see that in other people, we really have to handle the situation with compassion. Because when we start to see, okay, we're not just going to see an angry old man, we're going to see someone who's hurt. And we're going to be extra kind and caring and compassionate for them. It doesn't matter if they fall and they stumble, or if they're still angry. We're still being called to set the good example and to have compassion. Yeah. You've been getting strong intuitions, waking up the masses on resources over money. For an instance, why churches own more land than anyone with no gardens, fruit trees, wild berries. There will be no starvation in the world. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. We are seeing a whole shift to tiny home communities. And so the tiny home communities, though, people are going back and living off the land. And not only that, but there's different programs in place where, like, there's tons of funding. So if someone wants to, like, take out a loan, the government is offering like a $500,000 to go buy land and pay for all the farming equipment and the cattle and all this stuff. So there's loan, of course, there's, the packet is like this big. You have to fill out, give them a drop of your blood or something. Just kidding. And so, and then you get that, the government grant or government loan, whatever it is. But it's just to build farmland. So we're already seeing this happen, and other things are taking place right now. So when we really start to go inside and focus on ourselves, there's free energy technology that's coming. And so the free energy technology, we can already see it. We can already see people talking about it. It's hit the consciousness. So when things like this happen, we start to realize, oh, okay, well, they had free energy technology in the past. And I just actually saw a TikTok just yesterday where the gentleman was talking about why bricks are red and why everyone was using red bricks, because we were able to pull a type of energy out of the atmosphere with the red bricks, and those red bricks would actually store the energy. So they found certain bricks with like an electrical company's name stamped into the brick. And yeah, there's a thing on TikTok. Why are higher selves not cooperating? Are they competing? Why are other higher selves triggering other humans to form to establish a court after cutting? Well, that's just the way it works. And so your higher self is kind of like your intuition. So if you get an intuition to call someone, you're not going to question it. You just pick up the phone. So your higher self guides you to make the decisions that you need to make throughout your day. However, during the dream time, let's say my friend, we'll just call him Mr. B, right? Mr. B and I had an energy cord. I cut the cord. And now all of a sudden in the dream time, our higher selves, they're friends, they're best friends. And so they're going to have a whole contact and communication. And it's like, well, I'm going to call you to try and get the cord back. And I'm going to be like, well, let's see if the ego mind is going to do it. So to the higher self, it's a big game. It's a giant game because the higher self can't get hurt. The higher self fractalizes its energy down into different bodies. And so this is where we see the twin flame come up, because a twin flame is your higher self fractaled into both you and your partner at the time. Now, the whole purpose of a twin flame is to go through these different cycles together. So you go through very rapid karmic shifts. So let's say, for an example, a man and the wife, let's say the man gets into a very tiny car accident, right? So maybe he bumps something, nothing big. But now both of them have to go through that experience. The wife is probably the one who ends up calling the insurance and yada, yada, yada. And they go through the whole experience together. So you have the witness and you have the person involved. And so, but these are only perspectives. But when we see the twin flame and the wife, both people, they go through multiple cycles together, because from the higher self's perspective, the higher self is saying, well, these are two fractals of myself. And so what I want to do is I want to get both fractals to evolve as rapidly as possible so that I can get up a level, right? Because it's like a video game to the higher self. It's like a game. It's a game to all souls. We come here to learn, but this is a game to the souls, and time space just doesn't exist over there. So your higher self is living in a completely different life right now as we speak, but time doesn't work the same. So it's more like a focus on in the now moment. And then not only that, but under hypnosis, we've actually been able, not me, but some human beings on this planet have been able to put people under hypnosis and make contact with the heavens. So the heavens, we always think of the heavens like, oh, okay, that's where my grandmother went after she passed away. But it's the higher self realm. And so all souls live up there. Now, what happens when we go through the solar energetic shift or the solar flash is your physical form is going to be reunited with the higher self to such a degree in which it activates your rainbow body of light and it allows you to exist in 5D as a rock star. And so a rock star is the star is your higher self. The rock is the physical material. Both of these two things combined. That gives you full control over the holographic simulation. So there's no more reincarnation for you the second that you activate a full rainbow body of light. So you get to come back here into the 3D realm, but it's not the 3D, it's more like the 5D at that level. But you have to, every time you drop in your rock star body or your rainbow body of light with the physical body incorporated, same thing. It lets you drop into the 3D realm, but you have to take on a physical form. So length times width times height. When you take on a physical form, this is how we're able to see like angels that come to people on this planet, and people see an angel. That's because they took on the dimensions of this realm. But we are living in a multiverse. So there's so many different realms to explore and to become aware of. Now, not only that, but there's different types of water. There's plasma. Plasma is very interesting because that's directly connected not only into Mother Earth, but inside of our body, we have plasma. And so when we start realizing the sun is shooting off a lot of plasma, that plasma is affecting Mother Earth. She's releasing plasma balls. Those plasma balls are having an effect on every single human because the plasma ball raises up. Some of them go right up high and they touch into the human consciousness grid. This is what the star people are saying. It touches into the human consciousness grid, and then it changes the plasma frequency inside all people's bodies. When that happens, that plasma is directly connected into the memory grid complex, which then in turn starts a process of allowing the human beings to unlock the past and future life memory grid. Make sense? Okay. Excellent. So when we start to unlock the memory grid complex, the first level to that gift is going to be like remembering your past selves, your past life reincarnations, remembering the future self reincarnations. And so you remember all of those things. But then, let's say, for an example, there's a parallel reality. And that parallel reality, it's ever so slightly different than this reality that we are existing in. However, that lifetime you had different information. So your memory grid was completely different because you had different past lives, different future lives, because that person is not technically you. It's not in the same frequency. However, that person is directly connected into the higher self. And so what you're able to do is pull the consciousness back up, make contact and communication with the higher self, and then instantaneously download any information from that lifetime into your physical form. But what it looks like to us is it looks like, oh, I need the information so I can play the piano. You close your eyes, you play. It's like the genie from that TV show back way back in like the 80s. But she used to go like this, right? And so bam, instantaneous download. Now, if you needed to know how to play the piano, you would just downloaded a full course. And so your memory grid complex will shift and give you the information as if you have been a master piano player your entire life. Your memory grid will shift and give you access into that parallel realities timeline. I hope you guys understand that. But it's deep, right? But the second that we understand this is how downloads work, it's because that information had to exist somewhere in the multiverse. And so if we need the information, and it doesn't matter what information, it's just like Neo in the Matrix. When he was sitting in a chair and he was downloading all this stuff, all of that information was coming from different versions of his higher self. And all the information, because all information is present right now, so we could download any and all information right now just by tuning into the higher self. Now, this process happens automatically the second that you start to do the shadow work, which is why shadow work is important, because then your energetics become very clean. And so we are going to be doing a full shadow work together for 30 days, except I think we're going to split it up to like 3 times a week. So anyone interested in joining me for a Zoom 3 times a week to focus specifically on shadow work, send me a message. Okay. I'm not listing it for any cost. This is a group event. So we all can get together. We can all start focusing and healing each other and really breaking down these walls of limitations, right? You and I, we're one person, we're one consciousness. So when I help you, I'm helping myself. So when you help someone else, you're helping yourself. How does it feel to give things away for free? It's the warmest feeling in the entire world when you could be of service to another person. And so when you do something nice for someone else, it makes you feel warm inside. That feeling, that emotion is what I'm talking about, because when you radiate that emotion, it gives access into the extrasensory ability ranges. Yeah. Just send me a message, Simone. I got you. Just send me a message so it pops up. Yeah, and then anyone who wants to come, it's going to be one Zoom link and we'll just keep linking into it. Yes, and the ripple effect. And not only that, but every person that we see in this entire holographic simulation is a mirror of something that we needed to experience in order for our evolution. So even if we experience some crummy things, it's okay. If we have an argument with someone, that's okay too, because that's an experience that we personally needed to have in order for us to learn something, for us to grow and evolve. This is how the higher selves work, because the higher selves are having powwows and meetings while we're sleeping. And so we become unconscious. So we don't remember anything when we go to sleep, or we might have a dream early in the morning, but what happened to the rest of the night that we were sleeping? So your higher self basically takes control. Your ego mind, all of the soul form, like the astral form, it pulls up, makes contact with the higher self. And then all of a sudden the higher self is like, "Durr," and she like downloads what you need to learn. And so now the higher self knows exactly, but this goes, the star people are saying it goes with the energetic grid structure, because the higher self does a full biological systems check. And so any energetic nodes or ley lines or meridians that have density or distortion will then be scanned by the higher self, allowing the higher self to see what you need to learn in order to evolve you to the next brick of consciousness. And so when we allow that process to just take, and this is what it is when we are having faith, right? And so we can have faith in whatever it is that we choose to have faith in: God, the higher self, the source frequency, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same energy. It's all physics. It's science. It's frequency. It's sound waves, and it's light. It's all, it is. It is everything, and it is one. So when we start to realize that, it's like, okay, the higher self is going and programming the experiences that we need to have. So that means if I get into a fight with Mr. X and I both agreed on some high soul level to have this interaction so that each one of us can evolve. That's how that works. So, and then right then and there, the second that like your arch enemy, the person who has done the most amount of damage to you in this life, your higher selves are best friends, because the higher self isn't just going to allow any random person to damage you. It's going to have to be someone that you're on a soul level are like best friends. And so when you come out of the ego mind and you're back up in the soul form, it's like all hugs and kisses and, oh, you did that to me. Yeah, I'm going to get you in my next lifetime. Like it's a game to them. That's how they see it. They see it as a game. That's okay, because they play the game with us. We think we take it so seriously because this is real and we have all felt real pain, and that is not even funny. However, to them, it's like a game, because this is how we learn and grow as a soul. Is there anything that will block you accessing this information? Yes, there's the shade system. And so I want you just to imagine we have an energetic grid structure. It's tied into each and every chakra system. Now, each and every chakra system, you have a thought grid. That's in the pineal gland. It attaches into the mental. And then we have an emotion grid. We put both of those together. It is yellow and the heart one is blue. And then we put them together. It forms an icosahedron and it's green. And so that green energy grid, that's your memory grid complex. So when we start to develop thought grid attachments, a thought grid attachment is going to push thoughts into your mind. And so if you ever have a reoccurring conversation and it's all negative and it's all toxic, and you can hear your words as if it's your voice in your mind, 9 times out of 10, that's a thought grid attachment. And so you want to speak to it, tell it, get off of me and go home. And so just see what happens to the voice inside your head. If it calms down, then you just proved it to yourself. Yes, that's an attachment. Now I know for a fact. I know for a fact because I've heard them, I've spoke to them, right? So I went through all these experiences. I had to learn, and then I couldn't get rid of them. And then I knew that they were there, and then I thought I was going crazy. And then, but through time, and you really you dive in deep, and you're just like, okay, what are you going to say to me? And not today, universe. And actually, what my Starman is saying, he actually told me there's a way to reset the memory grid complex. And so he's bringing this up, like he's showing it to me. So the thought grid is yellow, the emotion grid is blue. So just imagine you have two buttons here. Your thought grid, so it's yellow, your emotions is blue. You put them together, it turns green, and then you spin them. Now, whatever thought that you were having, whatever emotion you were having, just imagine, boop, you're sending it to the Akashic records. So it's no longer in the ego mind. You're sending it off of you. And so whenever you are dealing with lower frequency or vibration attachments, then you can yellow, blue, spin it green, send it off to the Akashic records. That's it. We don't need those thoughts, those emotions with us anymore. And so that he walked me around my house for like 6 months. I was like 1, 2, 3. And it was always, when you're doing the shadow work, when you have extensive shadow work to go through and processing. And at that point, when I went through it with the star people, I thought I was good. Like I went through all of this shadow work, and I was like, I feel like a rock star. It's amazing. And then it was, no, you have all this stuff that needs to come off of you. So just even the most seasoned professional, doing that loving, care, and kindness to yourself, there's always more. And now what the star people have been instructing me is that if you are in a physical body, you have density, because the first wound, the first trauma that we have and we exhibit is birth. So when you are birthed into this reality is with pain. That is why the child comes out screaming, right? And so that first original trauma, that first pain, we have to go inside. We have to heal that. After we heal all the rest of the trauma and pain. Now we have to also realize neglect and not having enough interaction is trauma. And that's a very deep trauma, especially when we're children. Now, a lot of times in this society, in this condition that we're living, the parents are like, I just got home from work. They just want to sit down. They're overworked. And not only that, but working an 8-hour shift every day, it's leaving every single person sleep deprived. And we're not realizing it because we've been told you only need 8 hours. That's not true. And not only that, but when you're tuning into different energies at 3:30 in the morning, but then around 5 o'clock in the morning, we're supposed to be focused on the astral realms. So right when we wake up right around the sunrise. We're supposed to wake up and drop back into sleep, or he's saying it's actually before the sunrise. And so you're waking up a little bit before the sunrise comes up, drop back in and do a meditation and try and go out your body and try and astral project. That's the time when it's the easiest to get out. Now, there's also different times. It's he's saying it's like a solar alignment. And when all the planets, or your back is facing out into the universe and all the planets are aligned, your intuition and telepathy is solar noon, is what he's calling it. It's like solar noon, but it's all the planets are in a row and your back is out to the universe. The source frequency blasts through the back of you, and it actually activates your pineal gland during that moment. So this is why some cultures have trained the people to pray and meditate at a certain time of the day, except they got it a little bit wrong because they're not really using the solar charts. The solar charts is the configuration of the planets during a time moment. So when we start to realize that the planetary movements are having an effect on our intuition and it makes it more amplified, are you guys going to want to be at work while you're more amplified? You could tune in that moment to like talk to your guides, talk to whoever you want to talk to. No, you're going to be like, I'm sorry, I need a meditation break because I need to go and I need to connect. Not only that, if you have an injury or you're dealing with a disability or anything funky going on in your body, your intuition is more amplified. So that means your energetics are more amplified. So then we want to drop into the meditation, pull down more of the source frequency or the higher self, because it goes in stages. There's the source frequency, there's the higher self is next, and then the higher self fractalizes into the physical form. So when you're in that moment where all the planets are in alignment, you want to drop in. If you're sick, you have something going on, and just imagine a tube whoosh of source frequency filling your biological form, and just thank it for healing you, whatever needs to be healed. Now, there's different types of brainwave patternings that happen when we connect into super high frequencies. So tuning into gamma is wonderful. Theta, lambda And so when we start tuning into lambda, it's a very rapid brainwave processing. So when we start to tune into the source frequency, I want you guys to think about how electricity is. It's a very, very rapid, it's hot. If you touch it, you're going to get burnt. Fire is hot. We know that the atoms and the molecules are speeding very rapidly to be fire, right? And then something that's really cold, it's going to be very slow. Now, we could recognize this in our emotions too. Love, it makes us hot, makes us warm. When we drink a warm or hot cup of coffee, it actually activates the love centers. So, anyone feeling not enough love in your life, start drinking hot drinks. That hot food, too, also does a rebalancing to your energetic grids as well as your biological form. So, many times we go through these stages where we're eating nonstop salad. Salad is cold. And so, but then let's say your frequency drops and it drops a little bit too far, you may get sad or depressed. Your natural intuition, because that's always working, is going to tell you you need a hot plate of food. And so, why is that? Because the heat in the food is going to activate you differently. You're going to feel differently. And so, when we start using our intuition and figuring these things out, it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to get a different body sensation by utilizing hot or cold. And so now how can I use that to help me? Now, when you're utilizing cold, cold is directly connected into the void. It activates your fight or flight system. This is what that whole ice bath thing is about. So whenever you hop into the ice and the ice water, it wham, it restarts your circulation, right? And they're doing different breath work. So they are increasing the oxygen in the body. Wim Hof is the Iceman. You guys should all check out his work. Now, me personally, I have not jumped into any icy stuff. However, I'm baby stepping that process and I started washing my hands with cold water. And so, but now I even notice like my hands are building up a resistance to it. And so, what I'm doing the baby step process, because then I'm going to get my arms a little bit and I'm going to take it from there on in after I do the breath work. So, you guys should try doing it too. Now, fight or flight systems, the second that you understand how to activate them, because doing the breath work, it's going to make you feel your vagus nerve. That's wonderful. Because the second that you could feel the vagus nerve and exactly where it is, it's like in the back of your head, but it's kind of in your neck and it's up to like the spinal cord column. It's up there in that area. I don't know how to describe it, but I saw it in my head. And so when you start to activate it, now I can sit here, I can close my eyes and I could feel it. I could pulse it because now I know what it feels like because I've activated it. The second that you know what it feels like, you can command it. And so I've had situations where I was roughhousing with a dog. It was a friendly dog for me. And so I was trying to play, what is it? When you pull the rope from him and he was winning. And somehow it was like a quick breath that I took in. And then my vagus nerve activated. I felt my body get pulled back from the simulation. So I didn't feel like I was here. I felt like I was slightly backwards inside my body. And then I felt like I had activated super strength. I barely had to move and the dog was unable to rip that rope out of my hands. And it was very like, oh my God, I did it. And that's superhuman strength. Because the second that we start pulling ourselves out of the hologram, we realize it's like your eyes become open in that moment. Now, holding it is a little tricky. I still, once in a while, I'll dive in, then I have to go out. Now, when we start holding it, it's like a change in your perception because you start to see, okay, wait a minute, but it's not only the perception that changes, kind of looks like a daydream, and the actual world starts to shift a tiny bit. But when you utilize the breath work with it and it activates the vagus nerve, it's like your soul or your light body is pulling to the back like that. And then the second that you do that, it's like, oh, okay. So anything extra sensory. They had me do this in a meditation once, and I was able to make sparks. I was laying flat on my bed because sitting up in a chair is not happening. So, and I was trying to do like this to open a portal. Of course, I was trying to do that, and I was doing it for a very long time, but I wanted to see my Starman. And so I was trying, but I actually saw the sparks. So this is how it's done. You have to get yourself into like a daydream. You have to pull your consciousness back from the world, and then you have to keep trying. And let me tell you, my arm was numb. It was like, man, I was doing circles for so long, but I kept going and kept going with it. And then I saw it. Now, I've seen other things too, because they've also pulled my consciousness. Once again, it comes back, but then they pulled it up. And when they pulled it up, they let me feel what 5D frequency feels like. And so 5D frequency is love, joy, and bliss. It was the best feeling that I had ever had in this entire lifetime. It felt like love, joy, and sheer bliss. Like I could run 1,000 miles. That's how it felt. And so, but knowing the emotion code is what's really, really important, because when we know the emotion code, we can actually start to consciously will that emotion into our physical form. Now, why is that important? Because every single light worker in Starseed here, we came here, even if we have crummy lives, that's fine. You guys know what love feels like. 9 times out of 10, the star seeds, your heart chakra opens at a certain point automatically because your star family is helping you. That's a blessing. Thank you, star people. Now, when we start to do this type of work and opening, how does it make you feel to hold more love? Many of us have been judged, criticized, have gone through nonsense because we're more open hearted and we forgive really easy, right? And we do these things when we don't even think about it, and then it causes more troubles. That's okay too, because that's all part of the experience. And that's, we had to learn something along this path. Otherwise, we would just be sitting here and it would be stale and then we wouldn't have any fun. So while we're here, we might as well be here to learn a bunch of stuff. Now, what the star people are telling us is that we also, because we're like the manifestation professionals, we had to have a degree, basically, not a real degree, but a degree in manifestation before being allowed to come to this planet. So, because of that, many of us have picked families that had a lot of chaos and a lot of ancestral karma going on. So, we did this because we knew we could go check, 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 and go and heal all these different things for the entire family lineage. Now, this is very, very important, because when we start healing all the ancestral karma, it's actually changing us at the DNA level, but it's also changing the family's energetic grid complex. So the entire family, every single member is on, because their DNA is identical. It has like similarities. And so the star people are saying the energetic grid that surrounds the entire family, when one person breaks a cycle, it changes the energetic for the entire family so that every single one in the family may then start the healing process. It's going to make it easier. So we take a look at the SATs and how human consciousness actually works. So we do the SATs, and we notice that people who take the SATs after the SAT has been given, they get a higher score naturally. This happens because the human consciousness grid, the second enough of us know information, the rest of us start picking onto the information at a higher frequency, which means we do it more rapidly. So anyone who does like the crossword the next day, your probability you're going to get that crossword done so much faster because everyone else did it yesterday. So all that information has been downloaded into the human consciousness grid, making it easier for you to download the information that you need to get the job done. This is true for images as well. So they took images of faces and they hid all the faces in a background. Then they took 30 people in. They showed them where all the faces was. They excused the 30 people, and then they brought new people in. The new people got more faces. Their intuition fired up and they were more consciously aware of there was more faces. So we do better after the information has been spread out a little bit. So what are we doing right now, right? We have all these people listening to this live, and so we're sharing the information out because that information is going to have a domino effect. It's going to actually trigger onto the human consciousness grid, and the rest of the people, you know how everyone is always so concerned, oh, my family members, they're not awake, right? And that's a real concern for all of us because we want our family members to make it to 5D. But the second that we know the information, we are taking information which is energetic in its nature, and we are grounding it into the physical reality so that it may reflect in through the human consciousness grid and then reflect into the consciousness of each and every individual surrounding it. Make sense? Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so can you help me activate my heart chakra? And so, what I want each and every person watching this video to do right now is I want you each to take a very deep breath and release. I want you guys to visualize any thought, any memory, any emotion of something that you love very, very dearly. And so it could be a memory of your child, it could be a memory of the beach, anything that gets you really, really excited and really happy inside. How does that make you feel? Now, I want you just to imagine that your heart just opens up so big and wide. Your shoulders may even drop back a little. Your chin may raise a tiny bit. And that is because your heart is feeling warmth. It is feeling love. It is feeling compassion. We have love for this planet because this is where we live. We love this planet. This planet provides for us. This planet gives us oceans to swim in. It gives us fresh water to drink. It gives us the sweetest fruit to have. And so we always give thanks to Mother Earth, and we go back into that heart and we feel this love-based emotion. And so we just also, while we're doing this activity, we want to say thank you, Mother Earth, for being clean, happy, and healthy for our children's children's children, as well as our generations, so that we may live in peace, harmony, love, and bliss along your planetary surface. And we just want to say thank you, each and every one of you guys who are doing this manifestation and meditation here today. And so thank you each for opening your heart. Thank you for feeling sovereign to this planet, meaning you live here, you exist here, you belong here. Thank you for feeling how much that you love each other and how you allow that love to radiate to every single person that you come in contact with. Because this is when we set the example, we set the tone of this planet. We each have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And so if you want to see love in each and every person and see it reflected back at you, you have to give love, because whatever you put out in the universe is going to come back at you 10 times. So do something kind for each other. Share a kind smile with someone, right? Tell a stranger you love them. It's okay. This is what we are here to do. And even if they laugh, it's okay too, because this is what we're here to do. And by setting the example, they can only laugh at you so many times, by the way. I walk around telling people I love them, and some people get uncomfortable, and that's okay too. But you do it again and again, and by the time 2 or 3 times comes around, they respond, I love you too, right? Because now it forms an energetic cord, and now all of a sudden you're sharing love with one another. So we think about the sunflowers and how sunflowers work, right? The sunflowers, whenever the sky is cloudy and dark out and there's no sunshine, the sunflowers turn to one another and they send light ions back and forth to each other to give each other energy. So they are working as one tribe, which is what humanity is. It doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter what sex you are, none of that matters. We are one tribe, we are one race. And so just like the sunflowers are one tribe, one race. That's it. Even though there's many different variants of the plant of the sunflower. There's many different types of sunflower. Ornamental, there's the big ones that give us seeds, there's the tiny ones with no seeds. There's many different types. We still know them all as a sunflower. That's the same exact thing. We are all human beings. Underneath us in our DNA, we are so similar, and yet we have been programmed to believe that we are so separate. The truth of the matter is, when you start diving into the DNA and the genetics, in order to actually tell where you guys were from, they don't know all of this information. You could send in 2 different DNA tests and come back with 2 different results. They're not, yeah, it's like it is what it is. But to pull apart and to see if you're, what nationality you are, they have to dive so deep into that DNA, it's ridiculous. Because on the baseline of all DNA, we're identical. And now that topic in itself gets even funnier, because when we start talking about the extraterrestrials DNA is just like ours as well. The only difference is that we have codons, and there are certain genetics that we turn on and certain ones that we turn off. And so the way that this works is like this. I could turn on the red hair, the hazel eyes, the tan skin. I could turn all these things on. And then, an extraterrestrial could turn on being blue. Maybe his head's bigger. Maybe the psionic ability is activated, right? And that's fine too. Now, when you have a look at the difference in the DNA between both, there's just different codons are turned on and turned off. So we can actually take different DNA and genetically modify the DNA, and we could change the animal. And this is being done right now with the insects. So to sit here and think that it can't be done with the human, that's not true at all. They could do it with insects. They do it with mosquitoes. They genetically modify the mosquitoes. So on Long Island, we had it was like a star, the lone wolf star tick, which you got bitten with, and then all of a sudden you couldn't eat meat. That was actually a genetic modified organism. That was genetically modified tick, because they wanted people to stop eating meat and start eating more salads. So the meat, think about the meat and the cycle of the meat and the cows and how many cows it takes, and we have to make all this food for the cows to eat. And it's, this is how people who look at the entire globe They're not looking at the tiny little town and fixing it bit by bit by bit. They're looking at the entire globe or like the entire United States. We shouldn't do that, by the way, because if we see a big problem, now what happens when you have to write a 500-page essay? Does that feel comfortable? Not at all, right? Some people it might, but for most of us, we look at that and we're like, that's impossible. That's too many pages. So what do we want to do? And this is basic in your life too. We want to break it down. Let's just focus on one town. Can we do this one town right? Can we fix one town? Can we make it so this town is self-sufficient? Why does this town have to be relying on any other government services or any other programs? Can we make it so that there's one town and that town is completely self-sufficient? All the taxes for that town go into that town. The streets should look beautiful. The lights should be paid for. Everyone's electricity is actually paid for at birth. And so that's why they send us statements and not bills. Your water bill, too, is paid for at birth. Nobody knows this. So the second you start diving into the sovereign information and amending your birth certificate to become sovereign in the United States, you start to realize that there's a lot of bonuses that you get from doing things like that. So, but that's a whole nother topic. Okay, let's see. Pain and raising the biological frequency. So this question here, I went through this and I was a cripple for, it was over 12 years. It was actually 12 years to start, people are saying. And so 5 of those years were positive, 7 were, it was horrible, right? But there's 2 different types of cycle. There's 5 and then there's 7. And 5 and 7 make 12. This is an important number because it's a prime number, is 12. So we know that we manifest 3, 6, 9 and then 12. 12 is like the completion number. And so there's different numerologies behind all of the different cycles that we have running. And so whenever you start to notice, oh, I'm in one of these painful cycles and I've done every single spiritual thing and I can't get out of it, that's because you're in a cycle. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I just knew the best was yet to come. And I kept telling myself that. And it was some pretty karmy days. And I just kept telling myself the best is yet to come. That's it. And it kept me going. And so then all of a sudden in 2019, I went through this whole transformation. Now the pain in my body was everywhere. It was all down my legs, had sciatica, couldn't walk. But in 2.5 weeks, all my pain disappeared. And it was to the point where I forgot I was ever in pain. So that's actually how we make a multidimensional shift into a parallel reality. So we have to forget the pain. And some people don't like to hear that, but it's just the natural process of how it's like a deja vu. We forget it ever happened to us, but it's still in the memory grid complex. So when we stop and we place focus on the memory, we can call forward the memory, but the pain is like, oh, I forgot, right? And so how many times have you guys been sick? And then one morning you forgot and it was like it was gone. That's how it works. That's how we make the shifts. Now we are shifting through parallel realities billions and billions and billions of times per heartbeat. And so for one heartbeat per pump, it's like bump, 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 bump. It's millions of different images, and the images are going so it's a flicker rate is what it is. And so the holographic simulation, it has a flicker rate. It looks like I've seen it before, so I know. It looks like a picture with a picture behind a picture, and it flickers. Now we can slow it down so we can start to see the flickering. It's kind of like a movie projector. That's how it looks. But we can also make it faster so that we don't see the flicker. We see the holographic simulation. You see your room, right? You see the physical world. You see everything as solid because you can touch it. You can feel it. We can sense it, right? But the truth of the matter is that we have people on this planet who are bending spoons. This is a real thing. We have people. Now, I personally know we have the ability because of our connection to Mother Earth. We could change the weather. I've done it. My kids have done it. I've had other people do it. I've had so many people do it, actually. Now that I'm stopping to think about it, there's a lot of people who have done it. And so when we start to come together in different groups and we start to teach this information to other people, all you have to do, and it doesn't matter if you're inside or outside. I like going outside. I like putting my feet on the ground. It's not necessary because I've done it in my room looking out the sky. You just hold that love in your heart, open your heart chakra, and just thank Mother Earth for this beautiful blue sky, sunshiny, warm day. Now, you have to take into consideration that each and every person, we are all in our own holographic simulation. And so the way that this works is amazing because I could have sunshine by me. You could be not even the next town over. You could be a 5-minute drive and it could be raining on your house. I've seen this before. I know it's real. So that is telling us that we're in the same situation, simulation, not situation. And so I could call you, you could tell me your weather, I could tell you my weather, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, let's see if my energetic can cast over by you because you're 5 minutes away. And then boom, now you have sunshine too. And it was right after the phone call. That's real too. I've seen it. So I know it. Now, I've also seen things where you just cannot explain. So there was one day that we were waiting on an eclipse. It was a solar eclipse. It was at night. No, it was not solar. It was a nighttime eclipse. And so there was so much fog in the sky. It was like so much fog in the sky. Like if you went like this, you would have seen the fog like, and it wouldn't have left. It was thick. And so for whatever reason, it was there. Now, me and my kids at the time, we took our hands, and this is back in like 2012, I think. And so we took our hands. Now, meanwhile, I have one girl and one boy. And so we had the opposite polarity of the gender because you need two girls and a boy or two boys and a girl. Doesn't matter. So long as there's an opposite of the gender. We took our hands and we said a prayer to God. And we were like, thank you, God, for opening up, the sky so we could see the eclipse. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, I have it on video somewhere. It's on the Apple phone. And so a ring of blue, and it was gigantic, opened up above our heads. And I was like, oh my God. And I ran, I had to show my mom. I was like, do you see this? I don't know how this happened. Right. But sure enough, it happened. And so right then and there, that's when I knew. I was like, oh, we have abilities, right? Because that was everything I was diving into back then was leading me down the path of we have abilities and we're just not told. And so also fasting and paying attention to your water content and fluoride, right? You want to dive into all of those topics. Your pH level should be properly balanced. This way you have a good voltage in the body. So your voltage in the body is your chi energetics. It's your electrical systems. So the way that your brain works is your electrical systems because your brain waves have to go very, very rapidly. And so it's electrical. Now, I personally use monoatomic gold. I take it twice a day. I don't know if you guys can notice, but yeah, I got my bottle in. And so, but I take it twice a day, and all of a sudden, your thought processes, it's very, very rapid. And so, the first time I've ever taken it, though, it took me 30 days. After 30 days, I felt like a light switch went off in my mind. Now, also realize any toxic food that you guys are engaging with, that needs to be looked at as well. I'll see. Instagram just was like, I hope you guys are back. So the toxic food needs to be looked at as well. The sugar, right? Sugar, we know they put in certain chemicals in it, so it dulls your ability to tune into these things. The monoatomic gold that I personally use is called Gold, and it's on Amazon. And so hopefully it doesn't skyrocket in price, but yeah, that's the good one. Now that guy, I buy it, so I don't sell it, but he makes it from gold. And so that's the reason why I spend that kind of money on it because it's like $70 for a tiny little vial. So when Enter Gold, ENER Gold. And so that's the one I use. So it's a white powder. It kind of looks a little bit pink. And so you take it, you stick it under your tongue in a tiny amount in the morning and in the night. And not only that, but there's been studies done on monoatomic gold, and it increases your oxygen to your physical form. So they've taken like different types of cameras and the UV, and they can see that the oxygen and the heat is like when you take the monoatomic gold. And now, of course, we're taking it in such tiny, tiny doses because it's expensive. But what happens if this is mana? And they took this white powder and they baked it into bread and they gave it to all their people. And it made them healthy. It kept them alive while they were going through hardships. Right. And so that makes a lot of sense because monoatomic gold, if you start to pull apart those stories from the Bibles, it's like that makes perfect sense. Now, they found monoatomic gold all over the pyramids. A guy named David Hutchinson, he found it all over his farm. He took it and he had it analyzed, and it did not fit any of the periodic table of elements. So a monoatomic mineral is basically like this. Imagine the periodic table of elements is flat, right? So you have a whole bunch of boxes. The monoatomic is like pushing it deep. So you're taking something that's two-dimensional and you're making it three-dimensional. So a monatomic element, it doesn't matter which one it is because we have copper, we have gold, we have silver. Anything could be monoatomic. Monoatomic just means it can change its state of matter. And so what that means is we can have gold, real gold, and we can chemically change that gold or alter it and turn it into a powder. Now, here's the secret, because you could take that powder, you could turn it back into a gold. This is the philosopher's stone. Now, there's been other research that came about saying that people are taking beer bottles, they're taking beach glass or sand from the beach, and they're microwaving it. Of course, that video is no longer on YouTube, but they're taking these different elements and they're microwaving it. Now, we know that microwave is radiation, it's changing the atoms and molecules. So think about that microwave kind of like a replicator. Same thing. You're changing the atoms and the molecules, you're speeding it up. So when we have a look at that, all of a sudden they're changing the base level of matter by utilizing technological means. Now, this is real because it's just like bending the spoon. Let's say, for an example, you have a crystal, any crystal, and then all of a sudden you tune into your abilities and you tell the crystal that you want it to be this crystal. And then all of a sudden, this crystal changes into this one. That's real. We can do this. Now, I have seen things instantaneously manifest. Besides changing the weather, besides making lightning, I've seen things manifest. I know what the star people can do with their psionic abilities. They can turn lights on and off. They can manifest items with their mind. There's so many, many, many different things that they could do. So many. They could move your body. So let's say, for an example, if you guys have ever seen somebody who like just randomly moved out of the way before the car hit them, that could have been an extraterrestrial taking over their body and moving them. But the extraterrestrials that have the psionic abilities, for the most part, they're very loving, caring, kind, and spiritual. So when we start to interact with spiritual beings, it is of the highest degree of love, light, and respect. And so I'm talking about, you wouldn't go and hug a monk and like scream and curse in front of him, right? That's not the type of people that the star people are. It's got to be very respectful, very loving, caring, kind, and very like you try and be very on your best behavior with them and very respectful. So, yeah, when you do that, I actually tried many different forms of monoatomic gold. And so I tried the ones made from sea salt, didn't work. And then this one was like the last one that I picked. Of course, it was the last because when I found it, I was having memory issues. This was way back when, 2012. My memory was actually dropped down to a level 0. So I would be talking to someone and then I couldn't remember what they said. So I was not able to reply to them. This was a monoatomic gold that healed that for me. So I started taking it tiny doses in the morning and night. It was the last one I bought because of the price. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of money. But the second I bought it and I realized, oh my God, I felt like a genius afterwards, because then I was like, wow, everything I saw, everything I read, it all retained. Now, at the time, I had no idea that there was a solar energy that was also coming down. And that solar energy was also, it was like you're taking the gold and then the solar energy. So it was like a double whammy. It was like a double healing. And so back in 2012, I actually was able to tune into 5D. Except at the time, I had no idea. I just knew I felt wonderful every single day. Every single day. And it was like every day went by super fast. I had 3 toddlers at the time. And so we were outside in the summer eating strawberries every day in the pool. We had little baby pools for them, and it was so much fun. And so, but every day was like joy and bliss. And I was talking just like this, but with the conspiracy back then. You guys can just imagine the amount of people I have terrified with that information. So, but it was fun. And then all of a sudden, it was like, it shifted. And I remember the day too, because I picked up one of the kids and I pulled my back out and it was like, wham. You instantaneously know when you lower your frequency. It's like a change in your life, in your patterns. So, yeah. Nikki, you're going to have to send me a photo of the bottle. So, okay, I don't know what your bottle looks like, hon. I don't know what NEU is. Yeah. That's wonderful. So let me see. Okay. Oh, so we haven't done an attachment class in a while. So if anybody wants to do one, just let me know and I'll set one up. So I know a lot of people wanted to do them, but we are going to be starting the shadow work sessions. And so we're probably going to be diving into some of the attachment information in that. Those are not going to be recorded because there's so many, and then we might be tuning into the emotions. But it's not really going to have all of the information with the attachments because we're trying to really focus on people releasing their emotions and really coming in and healing as a group. So, just send me a message if you guys want the link. Do I have a limit on the shadow classes? Well, it's not really a class, it's more like a session. And so right now, I think we have about 4 or 5 people coming. That's about it. So just send me a message and we'll see how it goes. Right? If more people want to come, I could always split it and we could do, 2 days here and then another group could do 2 days. This way it keeps the classes smaller. So we'll take a look and see how many people come. Right? And then not only that, but it's accountability. And so when we hold each other accountable, we tend to all flourish more. And so I know that this was one of my big things was like, oh, when I was in a really, really like, oh, I don't want to clean the house, I would get on the phone with one of my friends, and then all of a sudden she has 6 kids, God bless her soul. And so she would be sitting there and she's like, I got to fold all this laundry. And I was like, well, I only have 2, so I might as well get mine done with you. Right. So it's accountability because when we start to come together in groups and forget about money, we start to come together because we want to heal each other and we want to have the experience. To me, that's more valuable than anything. And so this is why we're starting this. Plus, the star people told me, specifically me, they were like, you need to do your shadow work at least an hour a day. And so if I could do that with other people, that's even better because then I'm going to be helping other people at the same time. And so the second I announced, oh, let's do shadow work sessions, right? That's when they were like, yeah, that's a good idea. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to make it magical and wonderful, right? So wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? Excellent. We've hit that like hour mark. Okay, let me take a sip. Let's see. Any questions? Okay. So I do offer private sessions. The private sessions can be found at daniellelipton.com. Instagram is probably it's in there somewhere in my bio. Now, for April, I am also offering a buy one get one free on the packages. And so the Ascension package, it's dark to light on daniellelipton.com. That one you get 100% doubled the sessions. And so anybody who really wants to step up and who really, really wants to put in the dedication and the work to actually raising your consciousness, relieving any of the shadow work, letting all of the stuff go, and healing your life. I've done it. I've been there. I've taken all the spiritual knowledge that I know that the star people have given me or guided me to learn, and then I've put it to use. So I know what works for me. So I could tell you what works for me, and then hopefully it'll work for you. If that doesn't work for you, I have about 20 other things that may work for you. But either way, when we really start getting into the process of evolution, there's a solar flash coming, and it's coming. And a lot of people have been saying 2023. I have no comment to a date. I could just tell you what I know. I know it's coming. And I've seen it and they've shown me a vision of it. So I know what it looks like. Now, when that solar flare hits us, there's no fear because we are all protected and we are all one with the source and you. That's it. We're all made of light anyway. So we are not going to be harmed, especially because we're here with the star people's guidance and support because many of us are star seeds. Every one of us are star seeds, the star people are saying, because they can see all you guys. And the people who watch it tomorrow, they could see you too. But they're saying you guys all have your star families are watching you. And so there's nothing to fear at all. Now, when that solar flare hits, if you have done the work to release your shadow, to release any densities, to go through all your trauma, to heal that stuff, then all of a sudden, that gamma radiation that's going to come off the sun is going to activate you on a higher frequency. So 4D, 5D is like, that's the next level, yes, but there's a bunch of other levels that we can potentially tune into. It depends on how much shadow work we do. It depends on how much self-love we have for ourselves and what it is that we choose to do with our time while we're here. Are we going to be of service to other people or are we going to be service to the self? Now, there's a whole thing going around that tells everyone you have to heal yourself before you can heal other people. That's not necessarily the case. And I know this to be a solid fact because once again, I was a cripple and I know someone very intimately who got cancer. And so, in a matter of 6 weeks, her cancer had completely shrunk, and the doctors were apologizing, telling her that they misdiagnosed her. Meanwhile, the doctors were already setting her up for surgery. So, You don't necessarily have to be at a very high frequency to help heal other people. Now, what I tell everyone is, how does it feel when you send love to another person? What do you want to do for them? Do you want to make them smile? Do you want to make them happy? Right? Do you want to just shine a little light in their day, and so you take a little of the load off? That's healing them. That's what that is. Any healing is brightening their emotions. So when we start to send people love and light, even if they're a nasty old man, it's okay. Just smile at him, right? Maybe you get a smile back, maybe you won't. It doesn't hurt to send love, and we are allowed to send love and light to any person as we see fit. We are actually encouraged to send love to every person, unless it's an attachment. Don't send love to them because they blow up. So, but any human form, we send love and kindness and compassion, right? And it really makes us stop and question our own internals. And so, at one point in my evolution, I found myself being extra compassionate with all the other people, and then I had negativity inside towards myself, right? So that's another stage in this too. Is, yes, we do have to focus on the self. We have to focus on healing the self, but in shining all that love and compassion to other people, it allowed me to see the way I was treating myself. So keep that in mind too, because every single experience that we have is here to teach us, right? And so when it teaches us something, then all of a sudden it allows us to see more. Right? It's beautiful. Okay, excellent. What's the difference between star seeds and light workers? So, a light worker is someone who works with the light. And so just imagine you're sending love and light. That's a light worker. It's not really work, but you're working with the light. So a star seed, you have a star family. Now, there are some people who were human, and nobody likes to think, oh, I was human. I've been here for hundreds of thousands of years in the cycle. Nobody likes to think that, because everyone who starts doing the research on the aliens and all that, they're automatically, I'm a star seed. So for me personally, I like to have confirmation. And so making real contact and communication, that's when I was like, okay, it's confirmed. Now I know. So I like to have confirmation, because to me, I've always come at this whole topic from science. And so I want to know the science, and then I want to see, how can I take the science? How can I put it into my life and benefit myself? That's where I stand. The spiritual knowledge, it's wonderful, but if I can't use it, I'm going to shelf it until it's time for that. So there's some information where it's just completely irrelevant unless you're at the level where you're levitating or you're flipping magnets around, causing an anti-gravity field, right? Most people don't understand those things. They don't know how to do it. No one's going to get the magnets and sit there and take the time to make a torsion field, right? So, well, what are you going to do with the information? Am I going to do it? Probably not, but I'm going to mess with Organite. I'm going to do tiny things that I could show my kids, and we can learn and grow. Right. So maybe I will make the magnets one day, because that's a great way to make free energy technology. So if you imagine two windmills, right? So we know the windmill spins because the wind is pushing it. But imagine you had two and you layered them with magnets so that the magnets turned the wheels. And then you wouldn't have to have it way up in the air so that the birds hit it. You could take it and put it sideways and put it under the ground so no one gets hurt. Put it in a steel box. Now all of a sudden these things are rotating. They can rotate as fast or as slow as you see fit, right? And then hook them up to an alternator and charge your battery. That's free energy using magnets. Now let me tell you something. If you make one of these spinning this way, and then you do a second one spinning the other way, and then you put those both together and you spin it, you end up with the Earth's magnetic grid. And so when you spin them correctly, you start to generate the same magnetic energy that Mother Earth has. This is how the anti-gravity devices work. You're also going to start to see a rainbow light shoot out of the device that you have just created. Be very careful when playing with torsion fields, because you need to know all of the science and all the information. So do your research, okay? Don't blow anything up. We never know what's going to happen. I mean, some of the technology is so wild and so exotic. It's wonderful, but somebody has to do this safely in like a laboratory. So, and yeah, that's good. Next question. So, okay, wonderful. Yeah, so I guess that's it. Anyone who wants to come to the shadow work course, just send me a message. And then all the sessions are buy one, get one free. So when you do buy a session, you'll just get double the link. So you'll be able to book in for your time selection. Excellent. Hi, Alan. Welcome. I'm trying to help. I'm really confused. I feel taken advantage of. You're doing it because not to. Yeah, so that happens. So you might be on one of those 12-year cycles. However, you feel like taken advantage of. We just went through a shift and it was not even a week ago. And so that taken advantage of and feeling vulnerable and all of that came up. I've seen it. So I totally understand what you're saying. Now, I want you to try and drop into a meditation and just try and neutral it, right? And so I know that the emotions get very high. You have to allow the emotions out. Don't bottle them up. If you have to cry, cry. Crying is the best. Because just imagine we cleanse and purify the outside of our body with water, especially salt water when dealing with attachments. But we do this with water because it cleanses and purifies our energetic grids as well as our emotional grids. And so when we start to cry, that crying is salt water. So salt and water cleanses the emotions. So all of the emotions on the inside that we can't really reach, they get cleansed and purified by crying, by tears. Whenever we hold back tears or we stop ourselves from crying, you'll notice people will get bags under the eyes. And so we always want to have a look at any wrinkles or lines on the face, on the hands, on the feet, because those lines are an indication. Now, when we take a look at the palmistry, and reading all the lines on the hand. This is very important, but the thing that they don't realize is that your lines can change. So when I actually accepted my mission to come and be a channel, which was back in 2019, I had a wild experience where I was changing the weather for about 45 minutes to an hour. And so I would call a weather, it would change, it would shift, I would call a different one. So it was foggy, it was raining, it stopped raining, it was sunny, it was it was like it was so many things. I just kept changing the weather nonstop, and other people seen it too. But when that happened, the money line or the abundance line, the star people are saying, it actually raised by about a pinky in length. And so it cracked, it was bleeding, and then it was raised. And so the path that I was on before, it was a no-go with money. It was just a no-go. And so when I accepted this, the abundance was shifted, which shifted the wrinkles on the hands. This is only an explanation because just imagine for 1 second you took a photo of your hand, or you took a photo of your face. Now you start doing the energetic work. So you start healing the emotions, and now you start noticing wrinkles disappear. Okay. You start noticing your lines are different. So, anybody with health issues, you have a look at the health line on your hand. How does that look? Right. If it gets itchy, if it cracks, if it bleeds, it means you're making changes to it. That's a good thing. And so, start diving into your health. How do you feel? And right off the bat, every single one of us need to dive into our health because you should be talking super fast. If you're healthy, if your brain waves are functioning correctly, you should be excited too. So the excitement has a lot to do with that. The star people are saying this is not to put anyone down because I've been in the lower frequencies. I ate McDonald's. I was raised on the stuff. We all were, right? But I'm telling you, there's a mental clarity and there's a body that's like bam, and you feel like you have all this energy. Now, of course, this is what we're all striving to do. So even me right now, you guys see me make so many different dietary changes. No caffeine, no soda, no this, no that, no cigarettes, all the stuff. It has to go because we're preparing for a solar flare. And this is the reason why we're here. We're not going to mess up the entire life just because we want to drink soda. It's not going to happen. Right. So we do the best that we can in the now moment. And it's okay to be excited because that excitement is what fuels your energetic grids. So keep holding that excitement. So the more and more that we start to place the tiny little focus, okay, I ate this, it made me feel good. Let me do that again. Let me see how it makes. And so I even do this with vitamins, supplements. How does it make me feel? Do I feel like I have more energy? Yes. The monoatomic gold, do I feel better on it? Yes. Check. That's one that's going to stay. If this didn't work, something else. Then the teas. Now we're bringing in teas. Now no more sugar. That was out a long time ago. And so, but make these changes and keep a journal because a lot of times we live in a brain fog and we just don't realize that we're actually in a brain fog. So we've gone our entire life in a brain fog, especially if you're drinking caffeine. It like wires you. And so, but it wires you in such a way where it's not mental clarity, it's a brain fog. And so, some just flew in my room. I don't know if that was like a bug. Ugh, it's a fly. Okay. It's been chasing me all day, but I was not expecting that. Okay, so when we start to focus on which foods and how it makes us feel, like keeping a note and a journal. Now, once again, some people have been very resistant to the journal, But I'm telling you guys, and me too, because I went with this thing for a while where I'm like, oh, I can't really focus. Let me write it down. And then you keep going back to the pen and paper. Okay, what was I doing? This is what I was doing. So it's like brain training. So you went back on medication for bipolar disorder and you've been feeling overload of excitement and caffeine. Yeah. So limited amounts, get rid of the coffee machine. The Keurig machines actually they form mold or mildew inside. And so, and it's like it's trace amounts. If you had it for 6 months to a year, and not only that, but let me tell you guys, I had it was an experience. I would not wish it on any mother. But a Keurig machine naturally is going to boil the cup of coffee so hot that it will produce third-degree burns. I'm going to leave that right there. So that happened, and it was just traumatizing. So, but it all worked out, thank God. Now you have to watch with those different types of machines too. Now, are you taking the water? Are you loving it? Are you blessing it? I know, like people are always like, we don't have time to do all that stuff. We have to do it quick. But the truth of the matter is that you got to make time, right? And so even if I'm out in a crowded restaurant, we take the 2 minutes to just open our hearts and feel the emotions of love and joy and bliss, and then we try and project it. And so anyone suffering with bipolar, anyone suffering with ADD or ADHD, I've experienced all of these things, or literally all of them. It's like a pincushion person. That's what I feel like sometimes because it's like, oh, I've had that too. Me too, you too, right? So when you experience the ADD and it can wreck your life. At one point I had to stop in the hallway and I'm not diagnosed at all. And so I only know cuz TikTok diagnosed me. Go figure. But I used to have to stop in the hallway and then I was in the bathroom and then I was doing something else and I would completely get sidetracked and it happened over and over and over again. And so but then when we started doing the shadow work and we started cleaning up my energetic grids, all of that stopped. And then they started telling me the ADD or the way your perception, it's not really ADD because that's nonsense. They're saying it's your actual perception and tuning into 5D. And so the second you raise your frequency, all of the negative or toxic that goes along with that, it disappears from your life and then you start to see the superpower. That's the way that works. And so this is another reason why I'm very good at one topic, another topic, another topic. It comes like lightning speed. And that's because this is a superpower. Now, just think and imagine what 5D frequency is actually like. Human beings, we have to start talking like this. We have to start with a very, very rapid speech because this is how natural telepathy starts to become unlocked. So just imagine you have two people and they're very, very excited. So they're tuning into the source frequency. They're speaking very, very rapidly. And then all of a sudden, the words are not fast enough. So what happens? The species evolves. They activate the telepathic communication, which means that they start beaming thoughts and words without using the mind because it's too slow. This is how the evolution of telepathy comes about naturally over however long. So the process happens for different years for different species. Now, the second that you become aware of it, it's like, oh, okay, so this is what this is. This is an advanced telepathy gift that we're just not identifying with because we've been in this low frequency and people told us we were sick. Not me, though. I was never told. I lived my entire life until now, until TikTok. So thank you, TikTok. Yes. And so, Nikki, you even say that little bit of caffeine helps you to focus. Now, let me tell you something. I was going to go, the Starman had me quit caffeine. I quit, it was over a month. And then my friend took me through a Dunkin' Donuts, and I was like, just one iced coffee. I could do it. Right. And so, but then as we had already ordered, we had already paid. Now we're waiting for the drink. And Starman sent me a whole vision of me standing at the Dunkin' Donuts counter trying to order the coffee and not being able to speak because it was pulling all the words out of my mouth. And then he spoke to me and he was like, that's what that coffee is going to do to you, and you won't be able to channel good. That was the last time I even attempted to touch caffeine. I went out, I bought herbal teas. I bought monk fruit. The monk fruit is probably no good either because ethanol. So I bought this organic chocolate bar that has 0 sugar in it. I threw it in the trash. It was so gross. And so, but on the chocolate bar, it said, oh, you don't want to eat ethanol. And I'm like, I didn't even want to research it because something told me. I was like, whatever. So now the monk fruit's out too. It's so funny. It's so funny how the synchronicity works, right? Like you don't want to research it because you know it's probably going to be bad for you. So they give you a chocolate bar with zero sugar, and the chocolate bar tells you not to eat the stuff that's bad for you. Like this is the way the star people work, right? They don't want to tell you what to do, but they're going to make sure that you have the information one way or the other because it has the potential to change the way that you're thinking and the way that you're flowing. Make sense? So caffeine is definitely a no-go because the second that you're taking caffeine, you're not seeing it. You don't see what it's actually doing to you. The second that you come off of it, it's clarity. That's what that is. Not only that, but me personally, the upper portions of my lungs, that caffeine was activating fight or flight system, and I had no idea because it always felt like that. Now, this is another topic that everybody has to dive into. Very, very important is having the ability to sense inside of your body. And so I just want every single person, after the live is over, lay down, close your eyes, and go and just feel, place your conscious awareness inside the body. How does your body feel? Now speak a word. You can speak the word red. How does that make your body feel? What sensations come up? If you have a pen and paper, you could write with your eyes closed, keep the paper and pen right next to you, right? If you want to take notes, how did it make you feel? Now hold a crystal. How did this crystal make you feel? How did this one make you feel? We have to start becoming more in tune with the physical form because your physical form is everything. Now, so many times we're very rough and tough on our bodies. But when's the last time that you guys were very gentle? Right? When's the last time that you guys actually touched yourself very lovingly? Right? That's not something that I used to do at all. And so the star people had me rubbing face cream and I would like manhandle, right? Because this is how I was told. This is how I have been raised. So you just rough and put it on and you get to work. And they were like, no, you can't do that. You have to have this sensitivity with your body because it shows your body that you appreciate it. And so even if you don't feel comfortable doing your face, just try it on the bottom of your feet and don't rub it like you're massaging. Rub it like nice and gentle and soft. See how does that feeling make you feel? Now take that concept into the inside of your body. Is there any tension? Is there any tightness? Right? Do you have any energy? Are you burping? Burping is a big one. Coughs in the throat chakra, that's a big one. Those are signs of attachments right off the bat. Any perception, that's a sign of an attachment because a lot of times the room will, it's ever so slightly, it will shift. If you're on caffeine, you may not notice it. I notice it because I could see it now because I've cleaned up my diet to the best of my ability. It's not perfect, but I'm still working on it. Right? Easter begins 2 days before the moon enters my sign. Hopefully, I can raise the sacred oil again. Yeah, that's everything. Everyone should be focusing on that. So, actually, well, the wind and the water element came forward in a session today. I didn't even have time to tell the person though. Now that I'm saying it, I should really send her the session notes. So this person, the star people said that she had an attunement or they activated it for her. And so the wind and the water is exactly what you're saying right there, raising the sacred oil again. So we have fluid that runs in its cerebral spinal cord fluid, the star people are saying, and it runs up and down the spine, the spinal cord. And so that is the water inside the body, the oil. That's the water, elemental. And so the air is in the front because this is where we breathe. We take in all of our air here. We have 6 Kundalini channels inside the body. 5 of them are light. 1 of them is dark. That's okay. The center primary Kundalini channel is made of light. This is where your soul form is. This is where all of your soul or cellular information in the electrical systems comes from, as well as the magnetic systems, because the magnetic systems has an effect on this, he's saying. The star people are saying. This light tube is surrounded by dark matter. All light beings are birthed in the darkness. And so your brain is encased in darkness. When you're in the womb, you're in darkness. All life gets birthed in darkness. And that's okay too. Because darkness and light, it actually forms a toroidal field. And so in the direct center, there's an X. That X is a 0 point. It's actually inside of each and every one of our heart chakras. And then we can see that X reflected into different systems as well. Now, if we zoom in to an atom and we open it, there's space inside the atom. That space is directly connected into the 0 point. So that right there is how you instantaneously teleport. is by going into the atoms and expanding into that space, because there's no space between atoms and molecules. That's an illusion. Space is an illusion. And so if we took all of the atoms and molecules, removed the space in between all of them, we could shrink the entire everything down into one sugar cube. So this is a holographic simulation. So when we start to realize that we can activate ourselves at a cellular level, how is that done? By loving and blessing the body. And so the way we start to do this, and even if ladies, if you have a man, start to rub him too. It doesn't have to be anything wacky. Start rubbing his hands, right? And show him what it feels like to be sensitive to your body. How does this make you feel? You guys want to start asking yourself that question constantly, because how does this make you feel is so important right now. I used to rank it out when, we hear, oh, the shrink asked you, how did you feel? Whoa, right? We would laugh so hard at people for that. That was ages ago. Now I fully understand why we do that. And so, how does it make you feel has a whole new meaning, because the second that you can identify the feeling inside the body, you can activate that feeling in order to help assist you during your manifestation processes. And so, anything can be manifest. We truly, truly are a fractal of the source frequency, which means that we are divine, which means whatever it is that we wish to manifest, we can go inside, change our internal circumstances. Those internal circumstances, that's what that is. How does that make you feel? How does your emotions feel? How does your body feel? Do you have any tension, any tightness? But how does the joy feel? How does it feel to be so excited? How does it feel inside your body? Right? And then how does it feel when you have negative thoughts? How does it feel when you have positive thoughts? The second that you understand how the emotion codes work, you could start summoning your own emotion codes, which then in turn helps you to manifest very differently. So let's take, for an example, winning the lottery, most people want to do. And so I'm not guaranteeing that you will win the lottery. However, the next time you guys win $1 scratch off, let's say you only won $1. What do we do with that ticket? We take it, we throw it in the car somewhere. Who cares? It's only $1. What if for 1 second you took that ticket and you jumped for joy? You fired off an emotion of super excitement, right? And then all of a sudden you made that every day. So every single time you won any denomination of money on a scratch off, you jump for joy. The universe is going to say, wow, she really likes that. Let's give her some more of that. That's how the simulation works. We hold the emotion and then we shift into a frequency that matches the emotion codes that we are holding. So if you're holding on to depression or anxiety, you're going to shift. The universe is going to give you more of that. But we shift according to 369. This is the numerology that's encoded into the sacred geometric subsystems of the holographic simulation. And so what that basically means is, let's say you're on a new diet. How do you feel in 3 days? In 3 days, it becomes solid. It becomes real because you just shifted your patterns of behavior as well as your emotions, because those two go hand in hand. If you're holding on to trauma, that trauma inside of you is going to mess up your emotions. It's going to change your patterns of behavior. That's it. This is how the whole system works. So this is the reason why going into the shadow work, releasing the traumas, releasing all those trapped emotions is key. It makes you feel a clean, energetic feeling, which then in turn changes your behavior patterns. Because if you heal yourself, you're loving yourself, you're being sensitive, I love and bless your body with yourself, then all of a sudden, you're not going to put anything toxic inside your mouth because you have enough self-love for yourself. So that shows that doing these steps is going to change your patterns of behavior. When you start to change your patterns of behavior, whoever you were in the past is not who you're going to be in the future, because whoever it is that you want to be is the person that you have the potential to manifest. And it doesn't matter. The holographic simulation is supposed to send trolls our way. And so those trolls are specifically here to tell us, you're bad. You can't do this. You'll never make anything of yourself. They are supposed to come and they're supposed to tell us no. They're supposed to put us down. This happens by design, but we can't let them tell us. And if they keep telling us, we take a step back. We do it on our own. And then we come around after we've achieved whatever goal it is. And we say, look at me now. I did it. You were wrong. And they're like, oh, whatever. Right. So it doesn't really rock them. The thing that we don't realize is that they're kind of like agents, as if in the Matrix movie, how there was always an agent. There's different forces Just like the psionic abilities that the extraterrestrials can beam into people, they could make me talk, which they're doing right now, but it's allowed, so it's on a positive light. But they can make you move your body. They can trigger different emotions. They can make you cry. They can make you burp, right? They can make you toot, all sorts of things. They can control the full biological form down to a T, including the hormones that get released in your head that put you to sleep. They could do that too. That's true range of the psionic abilities plus more. There's stuff that even I'm unaware of. Plus, there's energy that you can send. So let's take, for an example, you do an open heart hug with one of the extraterrestrials. You can feel the warmth coming into you. And it's very strong. It's very powerful. It's unmistakable. You'll know it when you feel it. Now, this is all important because when we start to realize that this is our potential. So what do we have to do? We have to go in, we have to self-love ourselves. Because the second we self-love ourselves, we're going to start to place focus on how do I heal X, Y, and Z? How do I do the shadow work? How do I relieve the trauma, the stress, all this stuff it's hanging on us, and it's just not here to do anything good, right? It's just holding us back, or it's putting a restriction on us. Now, you have to realize the way frequencies work is like this. Let's say you have a trauma, and that trauma has an emotion range that's here. Do you think your body can reach up to here in your frequency if this trauma is here, or this tiny broken aspect of the self? That's what the star people are calling it. And no, you cannot. You have to release this. And so the only way to release it, and it doesn't matter what it is, it could be a damaged organ inside of the body. It could be gangrene in the toes. You got to cut it off. You got to release it because this low frequency is going to keep you down here or even up here, but it's not going to allow you to be up here. That's it. You have to release. Sometimes sacrifices are a part of being alive. We have to sacrifice for our own best interest or benefit. So when we know this, then all of a sudden it makes us stop and think, okay, well, what are some things that I can do to change my frequency, to make myself happier? How's your environment? How does it make you feel walking into your home? And now many times we walk into our homes every single day, so it's kind of like becoming nose blind, right? And so when we walk in, we don't smell the stink. Or the gym socks sitting in the corner, we don't smell it because it's nose blind. Your eyes do the same thing, right? And so you don't start to see the dirt. You walk into your home and that's it. Now, let me tell you something. Imagine you're walking into your friend's house for the first time, right? If that house is dirty, your eyes go, whoa, and you see everything. That's the way consciousness works. We become blind to things over time because if you don't handle it right away, it builds up. That's normal. So what we want to do is we want to start, and we want to start afresh. And so what that means is you actually come into your home and start looking at every single square piece of the home. Is this clean? Does this need to be clean? Clean it, bless it, right? Salt, vinegar water. Their star people are saying use a little vinegar in the water when you mop the floors. It cleans all the negative energy out of the home. So if you have to deal with negative or toxic people in your home, the second that they leave, vinegar the floors. Tiny bit of vinegar in the water. That's it. You could put pine sol. I like pine sol, but try and do like an organic version if you can. Or even the pine essential oil is great too. So they actually make frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh, it's another spray that I personally love. And so I went through a stage where I was spraying it nonstop all the time. But I find that when I spray my bed down with it, it just makes me feel so much better. It's like instantaneous, get to sleep earlier, right? You're not taking as long to knock out. It's wonderful. But they also make it in like laundry soap. And so there's different brands out there. Now they make it with essential oil so that even your laundry soap is clean and fresh, not using chemicals. The type of clothing that we are wearing too, and this is one that even I haven't placed that much focus on, but the type of frequencies that are coming off the clothing, anything with polyester in it is lowering your frequency, unfortunately, because it's in everything. And so we want to try and shoot for 100% cotton or 100% wool. When we wear those, they're higher frequencies, so it allows us to breathe. Now, I didn't realize this months and months and months ago, but the star people had me start to do meditations with less clothes on. And they were like, and my entire life, I've always wore clothes when I'm in bed, or like, you know what I mean? Like that's a wrap. We got to have clothes on. And so, but the star people were like, get comfortable having less clothes on. And so once you start doing it, you start spending that time alone with yourself, it actually changes the flow of your energy. And so now I can feel it. Whereas before, when I constantly had clothes on, I was not able to feel it. And so if you guys are able to spend, an hour in meditation, take your clothes off and just allow the energy to come off of your body. It changes everything. Because just imagine, we've been talking so much about the distortions, right? And so you have all this light, and when you have a trauma, it places blackness on the energetic grid. And so I did the shadow work. That's why it's a high frequency. I've been working. And so, but the second that you have that black mark on the energetic grid, which is a distortion or shade, right? Or shadow, it's trauma, it's emotion, it's density, whatever word you want to use. The second your clothes, that is a distortion, because your clothes are putting a negative frequency over the top of you. That's how this works. And so who knew? Now, when we start to come, we start to be in 100% cotton again, and it's like a breath of fresh air, right? You're going to feel differently because it's pure cotton. Now, if we eventually in time, we will get to such a degree in which we start to use organite clothing. Organite clothing is organic material layered with inorganic material. And then you could take some crystal and some ink and sew it or paint it into the coat. And then you take some copper spirals and put it into the coat as well. Use decorations, right? And that generates the same thing as a piece of organite. Now, this here is a piece of organite so you guys can see, right? But it's layered. You see the little layers? And then the back has the copper and different crystals, if you guys can see that. See? And then it's layered, and different crystals are in there. You guys can get these on Amazon. They're cheap. They're not really expensive. So when you start to sleep with that, now let me tell you something. I had this on for years, and I accidentally left it off once. And I had no idea that that thing actually works so good that it starts to balance your emotions. Of course, I had it on a really long chain, so it sat literally right in front of my heart. So this thing gives off positive frequencies. So when you leave it in front of your heart for 3 years, all of a sudden, your emotions are going to be smooth sailing, but you're not going to have any idea that it's working because you've had it on for so long, you become nose blind to it. Right. And so the second I accidentally left it home once and I got triggered, it was like wham, all of these emotions came out of nowhere. Plus, I ended up with a really interesting download because it turns out that we can actually shift emotion grids, which I didn't know was a thing at the time. And so when you're very, very close with someone, if they have a lot of density on their emotion grid and you come along and you're very close to them, the emotion grids can switch. This is actually, it's like a superpower. It's like a way of pulling the density or being a sin eater, right? So you're pulling all the density out of the person and you're releasing them all. This is real and it happens. So I wrote a whole post on it. That was like a year ago. So you get the nudges to sleep naked sometimes. Yeah, it's better in the summer. It really is. And just try it. I would definitely try meditation with it, because when you meditate with it, you can actually feel your energy. And who knew, but you can pinpoint a location, any location, say your throat chakra, right? And you can pinpoint the throat chakra, and then you could start projecting the energy out and see how it feels. You cannot really do this if you have clothes on, because the feeling of the clothes is going to block your energy. So, and this comes right down to self-love and spending that time learning about yourself. And so the process of evolution is, I know who I am. And that means, that doesn't just mean that you know what you like, you know what you do every day. No, it means you go inside your body and you know how powerful, you know every single area of the body. I know what my kidney feels like. I know what my liver, for an example. I know what this, what that. I know what my white blood cells. I know what my plasma, right? And start calling all of these things, summon them, right? Thank you, body, for showing me what my kidneys feel like. Now just close your eyes and feel them. Can you feel them? They're in the back. They're right there. There's two of them. You can feel them. Well, they might even do a little pulse, right? And so thank you for showing me what my brain feels like. Now, there was once a time where my hearing was like a very loud noise, like a ringing, and it was constant. There's actually in between, on the right-hand side, in between the two hemispheres, there's a portion of the brain, and this is a muscle. so you could squeeze it. I make funny faces, but there's like nothing to it. You just squeeze it, right? It's not like you're pushing on a muscle in your arm. It's like your tension and tightness. When you push on that little muscle, it's right in between both hemispheres. And it's kind of upwards there. When you push on that, it lowers the sound of the ringing in your ears. So that's important for somebody on here because the star people are telling me to tell you. So when you start to do that, anyone who has an issue, because the ringing in the ears, it starts from the pineal gland. And so, like, let's say, for an example, somebody smokes marijuana. That has a potential to open up the pineal gland and then generate this very, very loud, irritating ringing in your ears. And it could last for years until you learn how to shut it off or turn it down. Now, what the star people actually do is they'll send me one tone in one ear and a different tone in the other ear. And now this acts like a binaural beat. So it's like beep, boop, but you're hearing different tones at the same exact time. Now, whenever I hear that, we're supposed to drop into meditation because that's a key. It's a frequency key. And so when we allow that frequency key to wash over our consciousness, we're able to make contact and communication with the extraterrestrials. So that was my first step to make real, tangible contact with the star people, was having this. Oh, see? It's you, Karen. I should have known. That's me and Karen are like this. I still have the ring. So wonderful. Okay, so it's been an hour and a half. We are going to say goodnight. So you guys are absolutely wonderful. So send me messages. Let me know who wants to come to the shadow work. We'll do it together, right? We'll get on a Zoom and we'll work through our traumas and we'll heal ourselves, heal everybody else. Anybody who wants a session with me, DanielleLipton.com. The sessions are buy one, get one free. So this is a limited time. I don't know how long it's going to run. A bunch of people are still asking me to wait and do it. So yeah, Easter blessings. And then not only that, but it's really important that if you guys are going to take the time to heal yourself, it's better to have somebody walk you through it. Now, I only know because the star people do my shadow work with me. And so there's so many times, and they're like nudging me to step up and do it on my own. That's why I'm trying to nudge you guys to come do it with me, right? So we do it as a team. But it's the same thing. When I do sessions with people and we dive in and we do the attachment releases, come and do it and do it again. Because the more times you do it, the more it releases. Now, people report back to me their entire lives change. They feel clean energy. They feel like $1,000,000. So it works. It really, really works. Yes, excellent start to Easter Friday. Enjoy it. Happy Easter. And I just want to say also, thank you guys very, very much for always checking in on me. Because there's some days when I'm like, we're not going live today. And then all of a sudden I get a bunch of messages and it's like, are you okay? Are you okay? So I just wanted you guys to know I really, really appreciate each and every one of you guys. And I love you from my heart to yours. And so I want you guys to have a wonderful Easter, wonderful night, wonderful Passover, and just stay amazing. And make sure you smile once for me. Okay? Have many, many love and blessings, guys.